Good morning and happy Blessed Friday. Usually we talk about relationships, and so we'll continue to do so just because there's a variety of the types of relationships we're in over a span of our own lifetimes. And I think about how in my formative years, or anyone's formative years, you think about the things that they're exposed to, good or not. And I often wonder how people process or think about the kind of relationships that they were in and either the impact that it had or where those feelings live in them. And what I mean by where those feelings live in them is if you had not had the opportunity to explore them or process them, that means they live and remain in you. And so when we run across people in our day-to-day lives and we say, geez, that person was really angry. Well, where did the anger come from? Or, dang, that person was really, really sad. Where did the sadness come from? Um, oh, that person doesn't seem to really trust people all that much. Well, where did they learn that from? Like, all these things are learned behaviors, which then come out in your adult life. Um, and so think about it in terms of if you grew up in a household where there was verbal or physical violence, where does that live in you? And more importantly, how does it show up in the relationships that you're in currently? And I can only imagine for me, growing up in an environment where doors were slammed, voices were raised, verbal, physical violence occurred, um, I had to think about in my current relationships, where did that information go? There were particular moments in my life where um, I was in a relationship, and every time something would go on, I would start packing my bags up to leave. And every argument felt so final. And that was something I grew up around, and I grew up around witnessing and seeing. If my mom and my father got into it, my mom would pack her bags and be ready to leave. Well, I learned that. I learned how to raise my voice. I learned how to slam doors. I learned how to pack my bags up and leave. And so when you grow up around certain behaviors, they then manifest themselves in you and live in you. And then you gravitate towards things that are familiar in what you know. And so leaving and packing up was something that I knew. I didn't know how to talk something out in a calm, collective way. I thought it had to be all big and loud, and that it had to be expressive in ways that even when I was little and I witnessed it, it scared me and I didn't like. But here I am as a young woman in my early years of being in relationship with someone, and I'm doing the very same things that I didn't like as a child. And so I just want to give you something to think about, that if you don't understand where you come from and you don't learn to explore and deal with the things you were exposed to, they're gonna come out. And they may come out 10 times worse than what you grew up witnessing. So how do you show up in the relationships that you are in, exposed to the things you were exposed to when you were younger? Like, where do those feelings live? How do they show up? And are you aware of how they play themselves out in your relationships? I hope to always learn where I come from in order to do better. And once you learn and know better, you then can apply it and you can be and do better. I love you always. Thanks for listening. Happy Blessed Friday.